Daniel, I really enjoyed meeting you in Connecticut. I've been thinking about those papers, and I thought this might be a way to communicate with you. The grammar of conditionals, whether walrus conditionals have wings. This is the format I use for teaching my grammar class. And what we've been talking about there is the difference between subordinators and prepositions. One of the cool things about the Pullum grammar, and I'll attribute it to him rather than to all the others, but you know what I mean, is that it gets rid of subordinating conjunctions. It talks about subordinators, and there are really only two of them, with if being a substitution for whether. And then it expands the class of prepositions. So there are prepositions which exclude finite clauses, above, the house, in the woods, all of those things, during lunch. Then there are prepositions, those have noun phrases, obviously, as their objects. Then there are some like after, which allow noun phrases, after lunch, but also allow whole finite clauses, after we finished lunch. And once they've opened the door to that, they go on and expand the class further to include words that used to be subordinating conjunctions, although, because, and if. Although we had lunch, because we had lunch, those are prepositions. But that use of if is different from subordinator if, although there's some overlap in meaning, which I think is really interesting. In any case, the sentences, I know that it's sunny, I don't know whether or if it's sunny. Those are all subordinators, but the preposition, if it's sunny, will go. Now, how does this pertain to subordinators? It's interesting that there are declarative subordinate clauses. I know that it's sunny. It's sunny is a declarative sentence. But I don't know whether or if it's sunny is an interrogative subordinate clause, but it goes to closed questions. It goes to the question, is it sunny? And that can only be answered with yes or no. And so it's different from the open interrogatives. I wonder how sunny it is, because that would lead to some discussion. Now you can see where we're going with walrus conditionals, but let's go to the prepositions for a minute first. I know that it's sunny. It's sunny, that declarative clause can function as the object of a preposition. And so if it's sunny, if preposition, it's sunny. And that is, of course, the quintessential conditional clause, isn't it? I'm just learning this. I learned a lot last weekend, but I think that's what I understand of this. But what's interesting about that then is that it carries over some of the meaning of the subordinator meaning. In other words, a conditional tries to identify what the essential fact is that will determine an outcome. That's the idea behind a conditional. And somebody can come along and say, no, it's not the sun or money for gas that's going to make it possible or not possible to go. But a conditional is premised on the notion that you've identified what it is. And it's that idea that's there in the preposition if. It's preposition though, because it makes it a little different from causal connections, because it's sunny, or concessive or temporal while it's sunny. But it's in the nature of the preposition, the semantics of the preposition, if that's something you guys talk about. Not something I know a lot about, but you see what I'm pushing at here. And that made me think a little bit more about what I remember as the main point of your paper. You wanted to expand the whole notion of what's being considered a conditional. And so I think one of your examples was something like, she comes and she wins. And I grant that that could be conditional, and indeed a very powerful conditional, precisely because it works against the expected grammar of coordinators. These should be equally balanced. She comes, she wins. But because we're talking about something in the future that may or may not happen, to join them this way makes it a powerful conditional. It's my absolute faith that she's so much better than anybody else. If she shows up, she's certain to win. Do you see? So I think we need to understand the typical uses of the grammatical structures and then see how they can be forced into other uses, sometimes working against their grammar in order to make their points. That's for you, but let's go back really quickly to the whether. Whether pigs have wings, okay? And this would be the subordinators that we're talking about. This stanza, you know it, of course. Of shoes and ships and sealing wax, of cabbages and kings, and why? So here's an open interrogative. We could discuss why the sea is boiling hot. It's not, a conditional. Climate change, all that kind of stuff, whatever. You know what I mean? But whether pigs have wings, I think Carol was probably smart enough to know, or thought deeply enough about grammar to recognize that that's finally going to be a yes or no. There shouldn't be much to say about it, and there probably wasn't until Carol wrote this line. Then now we can talk about walruses, walrus conditionals having wings, and you know exactly what I'm getting at as I push that. That's what I have for you, that Carol recognized the difference between why, which is an interrogative word, and whether, which is a subordinator. An interrogative word, which would be something like kings and presidents and prime ministers that we can discuss as much as we want, but whethers as yes or no's. Hope this is of some help. I don't know if it is. My joke is that I really should be off working on bead. Take care. Thank you. It was great to meet you.